Hello, everyone. My name is Kelrick, and this is the ExQueerience Points Network's Qmenera podcast. I'll be your baby GM today, and with me is my fabulous cast.
I'm Jess. I use she, her pronouns, and I play Teyuna.
I'm Aaron. I use they, them pronouns, and I play Rialu.
Hi, I'm Kenny, and I use he, him pronouns, and I play Hillian.
As the GM, I have already bloopered by not stating that I'm Kelrick, and I use he, him pronouns. Brilliant. Moving on, I believe Kenny has a recap.
Yeah, Hillian absolutely will recap last episode for y'all. I investigated the memorial site for Daxam with Teyuna and became pretty sleepy. Rialu used their fancy words to get us a nice place to rest for our adventure the next day. Jacques and I laid down while Rialu and Teyuna used more words. So many words. So sleepy. I dreamt that I lost Jacques again. I needed to find him. I don't want to be alone. It keeps on happening and it makes me so afraid. And then I heard Teyuna's calming voice. Such a beautiful voice. Apparently I was searching for Jacques with the Anines. They're friendly creatures. Not my Jacques, but yeah, good. Good. Jacques was with me all along. Rialu and Teyuna look so tired and upset, and I'm kinda sore. I guess we'll rest again.
All right, so it's nighttime, and we're picking up right after you have stopped a stampede and saved Hillian from himself. So it's still nighttime. It doesn't seem to have made enough noise to wake anyone up. You're in a pretty empty area of the village. So what would you like to do?
I mean, we haven't slept yet, right? Only
That's
Hillian
correct.
has.
That is
So we should
correct.
probably go to bed.
Actually sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll consider it that you all have slept, as long as, Aaron, you agree? You're going to...
As we're passing through town, does Rialu see anybody? That was my only question.
You're not really passing through town. The Anine pen was right behind the house that you're sleeping in.
Okay.
So...
Then, yeah, we'll just go to sleep.
Okay, so everyone's pools, might, speed, int are all reset to their highest numbers. Good morning. It is a new day. You wake up and no one is bothering you, but there is a fresh supply of food outside. Nothing super hot, just, some bread and other stuff. So feel free to make yourself breakfast and figure out what you're doing next.
Did they leave us some eggs?
Yes.
Oh, good. I like eggs.
You know that because your little egg finder is beeping like mad, which is what wakes you up.
It's the breakfast alarm. Rialu wakes up, and upon seeing breakfast, they start throwing together some sort of ragtag breakfast, depending on what we have. And as we all sit down to eat, if everyone else does, then I assume we start going over our daily plans for what we're going to do today to start fixing this problem.
Before Teyuna eats anything, she tries to examine it for poison.
Okay. Sure. Allow me to pull this on over so I can set a difficulty roll for that. Yeah, this is going to be... I'm going to say actually for Teyuna that this is going to be pretty standard. So it's a task difficulty 2.
Okay.
This is just something that you just do. So you're so used to it. This is not... Of course I'm checking for poison. What else would you do?
Oh, no.
Oh, come on.
Oh, really? Is that
Well, that was
a
unexpected.
1 I see?
Didn't even have to check. And
You know you can bank those, right? You don't have to use them immediately.
Guess
Don't
what's
poison me,
poisoned?
please.
The GM is going to bank this one
Oh, no.
use as a GM intrusion. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Fantasy Grounds already letting me down.
With that said, you detect no poison in any food. Oh, I love this so hard. Okay. So you find a very wonderful breakfast for you. There are breads that are, very freshly made. There are eggs in a couple of forms, mostly hard-boiled, it would seem, so that they keep because they don't know what you're planning on doing. Everything seems to translate well to travel food, oddly enough. I don't know if the village is sending you a message or if Edalale had anything to do with that.
Yes.
So what are you talking about?
All right, so what's the plan for today? You all are the Numenera folks. I'm mostly here for other things. What's the plan? Should we head into the woods, or...?
Well, I think that's where we were kind of going to be going. We do need to make sure that we don't upset any large creatures. They're not good.
Yeah, it seems like the woods in this area are pretty dangerous if we go too deep in, but it might be a good idea to try to figure out where Daxam got the Numenera and see if we can learn anything from that area. It might be a good idea, too, to check in with Daxam's parents again to see if there's anything that they remember or anything else that they can think of.
All right, and did we want to talk to Williana today, Daxam's friend?
Yeah, if we can find her, it'd probably be a good idea.
Yeah, maybe she can tell us where they played, where they found it.
All right, so after breakfast, we go talk to Williana and then we head into the forest?
Yeah, and I can make sure Jacques can kind of scout around to make sure that we don't see any big creatures.
Yeah,
All right,
sounds
Julian.
great.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, so where do you want to go first?
Sounds like to find Williana.
Okay. Oddly enough, it's not that challenging. You finish your breakfast, you head outside. I'm assuming you pack some of the food to have later just in case since it sounds like you're planning on leaving. And as you head outside, you see the village is all already up and moving. You all were sleeping in a bit. They've all been tending to the animals, and some of the people who are dealing with the animals look a little grumpy. Like they had some extra work to do or something just set them off this morning, and they're not super happy, but it's just another day, I guess. So, and as you look around, they have you see all of these brightly scaled tripod people, and then towards the edge of town, you see one just getting ready, it looks like, to head out, and they're that copperish bronze coloring that Williana is. So since their coloring is unique, it's really easy to see there they are and that they're getting ready to leave. You can see them stuffing a backpack with stuff.
Rialu will walk up, and if I remember correctly, Williana's a child, right?
They're a teenager,
Teenager, okay.
Yeah, like 16-ish.
Okay. So Rialu will walk up and say, "Oh, excuse me, are you Williana?"
Oh, yes, and you are the Order of Truth people, yes.
Yes, my name's Rialu. I was wondering if we could talk to you for just a second before you head out wherever you're going.
Oh, if it'll help with the cure, absolutely.
It just might.
My parents are very excited about it.
We are as well. So I was wondering, did you happen to go along with Daxam when he traveled into the forest?
Well, we all go to the edge together, but then we separate because, you find more stuff when you're going in different directions. We all have kind of our own spaces. We kind of mark them off so that we know that we're not intruding. It's just polite.
Oh, that's such a good system. I love it. Is that where you're headed now? Are you headed into the forest?
Yeah, it's time for me to do some foraging. Not many other people will do it anymore, but I feel pretty confident. I mean, this is kind of the worst thing that's ever happened. So what else is there? Why be afraid?
That is such a positive outlook on things. Would you mind if we accompanied you? Maybe we can walk and talk, and if you're willing, you could show us Daxam's hunting area? Sure.
It's fine. I won't go in it, though, because that's where this one. But, I'll point you in the direction happily.
That would be perfect. We appreciate it.
Sure.
And then I assume we all start walking along. I don't know if anyone else has any questions for this person.
Yeah, no, I think that, Hillian would just kind of follow along. Hillian would probably want to ask, so when you're out there, what kinds of things do you forage for?
Well, it depends on the day. I just look for anything that might be helpful. There's some wild mushrooms that are really good, and there's some medicinal flowers that are out there. Sometimes we have to cut down, branches from the trees to make new fence posts. And I just collect whatever seems to help. And, I've got some pretty great tools that, I take with me. So I feel like I'm pretty good at it. And if you all want to investigate anything or do a quick perception check as, Williana is packing their bag up, you can.
Do you want all rolls done in Fantasy Grounds from now on?
Yes, it's the easiest way for me to see what it is and for us to talk about what you're planning on. What?
Oh my goodness.
Was that a second natural one?
Yeah, it was.
Are you sure about that Fantasy Grounds thing?
I'm going to roll again just to see, not to replace it, but just to make sure it's not another one. Okay.
Well, it's a 5.
Just rolling real low, I guess. Thanks, Fantasy Rounds.
Oh, my GM heart has swelled 2 times its normal size. Oh, what a beautiful day. I will just let this one pass. All you're doing is looking at this kid packing their bag. Yeah, with your 16, and you're really, for you, the DC is really low on Hillian because they're trained in perception anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you notice that they're putting in a lot of normal tools. You would see some sort of cutting utensil for foraging for plants and a knife and things like that. But then you see something kind of interesting. There is these 2 super solid metal sticks that are maybe 4 inches tall, and there seems to be this strand. It looks like a piece of hair. It's so thin, wrapped around both edges, around the center of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there's a groove in there where it fits. And then it's just like a foot-long strand that has been wrapped very carefully. And that's just in their bag. And you see that when they're moving it, they are actually very delicate with moving and placing it in a very specific spot. That's the only thing of interest you really see as they're packing their bag, but you do notice that. And you notice it when they mention that they feel like they have some pretty good tools.
Okay. Hillian, I guess, will comment on it because it's not normal, and he's pretty adept at foraging. So he would say, "Oh, that's an interesting looking tool there. Those bars and that filament looking hair strand thing. What is that?"
Oh, this is actually, it was a gift from Daxam, and it's amazing. It's super, super cool. It will cut through. I have yet to find something it won't cut through. These 2 steel posts are something that I traded for, and as you can see, it's already cutting holes in the center of them. But I have a couple more of them, and it's been I can cut through a tree with this thing. It's crazy awesome.
With the filament?
Yeah, it's amazing. She takes it out and she starts showing it to you, and she's like, "You have to be really careful with it, though. It is super dangerous, even for me to use." And so she takes it, and she takes both ends in 2 of her hands, and she uses 2 of her fingers on the edge, and then she just gently unrolls it. And you can see, and it looks like a strand of hair. They walk over to one of the fence posts that are just, on the edge of the area, and she says, "Watch this." And she takes it and she holds it, and you can see that when she's holding it, she has set her hands so that the fingers are as far away from the filament as possible, and she is gripping onto it looks really awkward.
Mm-hmm.
She is holding it such that no part of her hand is touching any part of that filament.
Mm-hmm.
She places it at the top of the post about 1 centimeter down, and it looks like she's slicing through bread. And she just slices off the top part of the wood post. And it took no time at all, and just zip. And then she very carefully, everything she does when she does this is very studied. Rolls it back up, trying to go along the exact same groove, and gently places it back in her bag. And then she reaches out and she pulls off this like wafer thin disc of wood and hands it to you.
Did Daxam tell you where he found that?
No, he just came home with it about a month before everything happened. And he said he found it and he thought of me. And so I thought about throwing it away because of what he did, but it's just so useful. And it was very kind. He didn't even seem to keep any for himself. Whatever this is, it has really, really been the most helpful thing ever. It was a very sweet gift from someone so very stupid.
Can I use my understanding Numenera to examine it to see if there's anything else I can learn about it?
You can absolutely use that to examine it. The DC to figure out what this is going to be, 1 second, is a level 5, and it is not Numenera, so your Numenera would not affect the rating. But all of you are welcome to make the roll to see if you recognize it.
What skill? Just intellect straight?
Just straight intellect. If you have, try intellect, and if the intellect is high enough, I will give you some other information that will let you apply other things. If you want to apply effort, you're welcome to do so.
We'll give it a straight roll.
Wow. Spot on, Teyuna. 15 is exactly what you needed. Nobody else notices, but Teyuna, you look at it really closely and you remember something about a creature that extruded is like webbing or some sort of filament that is this strong and powerful. Like you have to have something really sturdy to be able to hold on to it and use it. And cultivating this stuff, like you can get a lot for some of this. Is a very expensive gift. A lot of assassins will use it as weapons, and it does it. If Williana were the sort to decide to become an assassin, they would be quite well set up for a way to just garrote people easily. This is super strong, and it takes Numenera of a certain quality to be able to cut this, to even have any of it. So this is not something you would just find lying around. So this is a very interesting gift for Daxam to have been able to give to Williana.
This comes from some sort of, I've heard stories about an animal that extrudes a filament like this, a sort of webbing that would be almost impossible to harvest without some sort of really powerful Numenera. I think this is something that wherever Daxam found this, he must have had access to some very powerful Numenera, possibly the one that damaged the town, possibly something else. We've got to figure out where this came from. And Hillian, do you think you could track where an animal like this might be in the forest?
I might be able to. I mean, it's a pretty strange creature to be able to produce such an amazing material. I would worry that it would be very, very dangerous, but I think that I could find it or Jacques could find it. Yeah, I think we could do it.
As you're doing this, Williana, her whole body just vibrates, and she's just staring at you in horror. After you say that Daxam had to have had access to some really powerful Numenera, because that is not anything anyone in this village wants to hear. She doesn't say anything, but you just see, the very emotive scales flutter in a very dramatic fashion.
Rialu sees this and goes, well, let's not be hasty. We don't know that Daxam is the one that harvested this. It's possible that Daxam found it. From what it sounds like, if a creature leaves this, they may have just been lying around somewhere.
As
I'm not
you're
quite
saying that, Hillian starts interjecting. Oh, but I mean, he had that huge piece of Numenera that caused all the scale things to happen. So he must have found a really big cache of some very, very powerful Numenera. I mean, it's really stunning thing that it could do something like this, and then it could harvest such a filament. I mean, it's astounding that more hasn't happened. I'm surprised there isn't a flaming crater somewhere.
Yeah, let's Liliana, can you just point us in the direction of Daxam's foraging area, and we'll leave you to whatever you need to do, and we'll go figure out what's happening here and see if we can make this place a little bit safer.
She has no words. Her fluttering all over the place, and her eyes are transfixed on this useful tool that she has. And you can tell there's this internal struggle of, should I keep this? Is this going to explode? What is going on? Her scales are just going all over. And she looks at you, Teyuna, and says, am I holding Numenera? Is that, have I been using Numenera with this?
No, if that had been Numenera, you probably would have hurt yourself or done some serious damage with it. This is something that some sort of creature extrudes, like it's sort of like a webbing almost.
Numenera comes from everywhere. Are you sure this is not going to do anything?
I mean, I can't promise you that you won't like hurt yourself with it. You just showed us what it can do. It seems like it can be dangerous, but as far as I can tell, it is just what you've been using it for. It's a way to cut through things. As far as I can tell, There's nothing else to it. But again, that doesn't mean it's perfectly safe, because as you just showed us, it can cut through anything so easily.
Okay.
You were very skilled with that, I must say, and you were very cautious. I have to, that is a very, very sharp tool you have there, and you should be very proud to wield it.
As Hillian is saying that to Liliana, Teyuna kind of leans over to Rialu and is like, I'm not the people person here. Do you want to step in anytime and fix this so we can get out of here?
Rialu's just having a great old time laughing and watching this happen.
Yeah, it's super sharp. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you wanted to use it to go hunting, you could probably, take down some really wild animals with it if you got behind them and you just go around, and you could probably, make sure to take some things down. I mean, your village could have meat for years.
Rialu will just say, Hillian, is Jacques doing a thing that he shouldn't be?
Oh no, little Jacques right here. Hello, little Jacques.
And then they pull Liliana off to the side and they say, Liliana, listen, what you have there is incredibly useful and it helps you do your job better. All tools are just means to an end. And this is just another one that you have. This is not safe, as they said, it's a weapon, but as you have seen, it can be quite useful. I think that you should keep using it because it's for the betterment of your people. We'll go and try to discover what has happened. But you should relax and just do what you're going to do. Thank you so much for helping us.
With all of your skills in this sort of thing, Liliana calms down and just very gingerly places it, and without saying another word, just starts walking in the direction, because obviously very teenagery, lost in thought in their own head. You all are completely extraneous to her existence right now, because it's just, this tool has been something they've been using and they feel very almost tricked by how it was given to them. And so they're processing a lot of stuff. And so they start leading you towards the Baadenu forest. You all start walking along. It probably takes you a good 15-ish minutes to get there, walking real slow. She's not in a hurry. She's taking her time. It's more of a mosey than a walk. And so it takes a little longer than it would really it should probably only take you like 10 minutes, but she's going very slow.
As we're walking along, like Hillian would kind of lean over and be like, so have you met little Jacques? This is little Jacques.
She sort of side eyes and says, that's very nice. And then just goes right back to thinking.
Yeah, you said something about you mark off your own little territories in the forest. How do you mark them? What does it look like?
It varies. I use this thing to just cut notches in areas so people know that, I'll cut branches in a certain way. I think Daxam well, I don't think I know Daxam. Daxam would build little stone piles, and I think he carved his names in some of the places, or like a D or something. I never went far enough in to know, but he talked about carving things, whatever.
Yeah, I get that.
I can show you where his stone piles started. Nobody goes over there anymore. Nobody.
Okay, that's great. You know, little Jacques likes to carve some things into wood too. Sometimes it's just to clean his teeth and goes nom 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 nom.
She gives you a look only a 16-year-old could give someone your age talking to them, and rolls their eyes back into their head as they keep walking. They're just like, whatever.
Hillian sees that and also just goes, "Oh, that looks okay."
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes you just need to stretch your eyes too.
So she keeps walking.
Yeah, so we know that Liliana was close to the Numenera when it went off, right? Is this our first time talking with Liliana?
Yes.
Okay, so Teyuna will just lean over and say, "Hey, I know that you've got a lot going on and you want to get out of here, which is fine. Just really quickly before we split ways, is there anything you can think of to tell us about what you saw when the Numenera went off? You know, anything that Daxam said or did right before it happened? Just anything unusual that you can think of that will help us figure out exactly what's happening."
Not really. I was talking to his mother. I don't know. I wasn't really paying much attention. I saw him coming, but I wasn't paying attention to him at all. So not really. I mean, I saw the look on his mom's face, and I looked and saw that thing shatter and cut into him, and then that wind that changed all of us. But I don't really remember anything else.
Okay, and was Daxam just acting normally earlier that day? Did you go out to the forest together and then split off like you were talking about?
He had been, ever since before he gave me this gift, he had been really excited to go out and go scavenging. He would get up early, and we used to walk in together, but he would always start getting a break of dawn and start heading over. So he was, for a month, we didn't really see much of each other other than at the gathering hall after dinner.
Do you know, so you've told us what what Daxam's markings look like. Do you know if they've changed at all? If there would be a way for us to tell what the most recent markings would look like, so we'd be able to find the exact spots he's been exploring in the last month?
Well, his boundary markers never changed, but I never went into his boundary, so I don't know beyond that. But his boundary markers, nobody's touched, which, let me tell you, is a little surprising. I would have thought people would have torn them down. Honestly, everyone just avoids that area. And we've always been super respectful. We don't even invite each other into our areas. We just go. Sorry.
Are there other people's markings that we should know about? I would hate to wander in anybody else's territory.
I have no idea. I've only seen the entrance area to Daxam's, and then I have the one immediately next to it. So, and as you're walking, you see this forested path as you start coming up to it. And Baladin Forest is this really large space. As you're getting closer, you notice that it's devoid of animal sounds, but there is a very constant wind that you can hear going in the top of the trees. And so you hear them creaking and shuddering, but no real animal sounds. You just come into this wooded area that is very nice. You see all the trees with the little fossils kind of glinting on them and stuff. And Liliana takes you down this little wooded path. It's nothing super exciting, just a little wooded path. There's a well-worn road almost that starts leading into the forest here. You can probably fit 4 people comfortably side by side, maybe 3, walking through it. And Liliana says, Daxam's area is just around this bend ahead. As you keep walking, you come across this forested area where you can see some stacked stones. And there's one set that's on a tree stump that is, just some really cool rocks that have just some interesting rocks balanced on them, and they create a sort of marker. And then there's another one about 6 feet away that's a large, I'd call it a boulder, though it's a small boulder, with several stones stacked on it. And it's very clearly some sort of art installation that someone has made where they just took time to balance different shaped rocks as a marking for whatever. And Williana points to it and says, that's the entrance to Daxam's area. If you just keep going through there, we only really, my area is only, about 2 miles long. I mean, it's pretty big, but it's nothing you couldn't go through in a half hour if you're not searching. But I'll spend, a whole day going through trying to find just things in my area. So, or cut down logs. And she points to all the felled logs here. And she's like, these were some that Daxam had staged to bring home. But as you can see, nobody wants to touch any of those. So they're just going to sit there.
Is there anything in the forest that we should be aware of? Any creatures, or perhaps, I don't know if you guys set traps for animals or anything of that sort?
Well, we raise the Anine, so if we're going to do anything dealing with meat, we tend to just slaughter one of them. I don't know if they've told you, but there are Juraskar in here, and if you are not familiar, you really need to be careful. They are just super fast killing machines, and there's usually 2 of them. I haven't seen any, but some of the other kids claim to have seen them. And we have heard from travelers that there is some more activity of those. So you do need to be careful. But other than that, sometimes there are little flying creatures that you have to be on the lookout for. But I haven't had any problems in my area in a while. And I have no idea if Daxam did the last month that he was really doing this. We didn't talk a whole lot about what he found or what he was doing. He got real quiet about it.
Any tips for avoiding the Jurask?
Be quiet?
Not a bad tip.
That's what she's got.
Also, would the village be happy if we brought some of these logs back? Could you use the resources, or are they sullen? Should we not touch them? I know nobody else wants to go here, but I figured if we could help the village on our way back, maybe they would be happy.
I don't know that they really want anything from Daxam's area. It all seems pretty cursed and tainted. Nobody wants to risk it being something that would attract another Numenera event.
Fair enough. Is there any way we could find you if we need you, or just meet you back at the village? We wouldn't want to wander into your area.
I would appreciate that. And she points just on the other side of the path, and you can see that she has done some pretty intricate markings that they're just really pretty symbols. They don't seem to mean anything to anyone, but she's like, these are my markings, so this is the area I'll be in. But I don't have, I would not recommend calling out for me. That seems like a bad idea. So I would just see you at the village.
All right, perfect. I think we're all set, and Rialu will look around their companions.
Great. And she starts to leave. Is anyone going to say anything to stop her?
No, I was going to say, yeah, let's get in here and figure out what's going on.
She turns and starts walking into her area. She just...
Bye. Happy hunting.
2 of her arms just wave over her shoulder. She's like, whatever. Obviously, there is a lot on her mind as far as this gift is concerned. It's pretty disturbing. The Numenera stuff has not gone well for any of them, and how he got this is troubling. All right, so you look around the area, and there are a couple dozen felled logs on the ground, and there's, these stone pilings and stuff. What do you want to do?
I'd like to use my scan ability to see if I can pick up any just trace of anything unusual in this area.
Sure. So that seems like a pretty standard action. So just a task difficulty 2, and your scan, does that drop it by a step?
It's just an ability that I have, it's one of my esoteries.
Oh, okay. Sure. Go for it. So this lets you scan an area equal to 10 foot by 10 foot.
Mm-hmm.
All objects or creatures. There are no creatures. They must be within short range. And honestly, all you find is in this 10-foot cube space that you're looking at, there's nothing really of interest right there. Everything is just old piled wood and stone. There is a small pathway that you see that the person obviously at one point that they used to to do what they were doing, but nothing super exciting.
What does it look like when Teyuna scans things? Is there like a physical aspect of it? Or is it just like all internal?
You might see a little bit of like crackling electricity coming off of her, but there's not very much to see when it happens.
Does it require you to be stationary, or are you able to move around when you're scanning?
The description doesn't say.
That's why I'm
I
asking
figured
you.
it was. So do I get to decide?
Yes.
Okay. Then I would say that it requires. I mean, if she moves while she does it, it doesn't change the like scanned area, because that seems like it would be cheating.
Yeah.
So she can move while it happens, but it's sort of like a decided this area is what gets scanned, and she just as she sort of like looks. You can't see very much electricity, but like as Teyuna looks around, like she can see electricity that is only visible to her, that's sort of like exploring the area, and she's kind of like watching it happen to see what it interacts with.
That's awesome. Cool. So not really anything to see there. You do see a path off to your left that has some felled logs along it and seems to go slightly uphill. There's some foliage, and I mean, it looks like there should be potentially animals around, but you don't see anything, nothing big enough for you to worry about, that's for sure. So it's just a path that you can start walking along, or you can do something else.
I think Hillian would look for more markers to see if, this is a path that Daxam would go down or...
Yeah, as you're walking along, you definitely see cut into just random trees, just the letter D, sometimes his name, sometimes the Sim part of his name. Obviously just someone who's taking a break because they're bored and farting around, but also making note of their territory. So nothing of consequence. Since you're looking around, you do see a couple of mushrooms, like some really cool. So you see, just a couple of white, like stringy mushrooms that look like they could be edible. You see these, which Hillian, since they work with poison, knows that these are a poisonous mushroom variety that you could, harvest and, have to craft a poison if you wanted to. You see a rather dramatic flower that's white with all of these brown speckles in the center that to you it just smells really good, but you're not really familiar with it. But it's just forest stuff is what you see as you walk. Nothing super big. You can scan, you can see if you find anything, you can search, you can send Jacques off to do stuff. But what do y'all want to do?
Well, Hillian, I believe that this is your expertise here. You're the best one in the forest that I'm aware of, at least. But one thing that I thought was really important to bring up is that it seems like Daxam either found a cache of Numenera, or there is someone that lives out here that may have been helping them. There's more to this than meets the eye, so it's important to be careful. There's other forces at work here, I feel.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't want us to go off the path too much. I think that if we continue to follow markers, we'll be okay. I think the place that has either the fewest markers or the most markers might be the place that we need to find. It's one or the other.
Well, I feel as though you probably want to take the lead here, unless, Teyuna, you have some forest expertise?
Look at me. Do I look like I have forest expertise?
I don't know what it is that you hide sometimes, and, Rialu, jokingly, haha.
You see, Hillian bending over, taking some of the dirt and, rubbing the dirt on them. And then you see them harvesting some of the mushrooms. They have two bags, one that they put the poisonous ones into and the one that they put the edible ones into. They avoid the flowers.
Okay. Cool.
Flowers are pretty, but it's really hard to know which ones will kill you.
Don't forget why we're here, Hillian. We're looking for where Daxam found that device.
Right, yeah. Hold on, let me look around.
So Hillian's going to do a perception check to kind of see if they can perceive, where the directional flow of Daxam's carvings and stuff are.
Okay. So first off, what is Jacques doing? Is he or are they just staying on your shoulder?
Yeah, Jacques is just with me.
Okay.
I think that Hillian mostly keeps Jacques with them.
Okay.
But when they get into a pickle or something else, Jacques will come into play a little bit more.
Okay. So for what you're asking for, perception-wise, there isn't a whole lot really to look at right now. All you see is this path that has obviously been well worn, but it's really only wide enough for a single person. Maybe, a second person if you considered that someone drags stuff along it. It's not very big. And, there are a couple of logs that have fallen in the past few months that look like they don't look like they were there when this path was heavily used, but this path heading up the hill just seems to be where Daxam was going. If you are exploring for something more than that, then give me an idea of what you would be looking for specifically, and I can give you a difficulty to see what you find.
Sure. So I guess since we're in a sort of a clearing, maybe any indication of a not so well-worn path that was taken.
Sure.
So breaks in some of the foliage, broken limbs around bushes, that sort of thing that looks like people went in and out.
Yeah, let's go with a TD4.
Sure. So I'll do perception and I'll expend some effort on this. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so as you're going along, you are following this path, and then maybe 50 feet down, you see an area that sort of breaks off to the right. And so you're coming in from the top, and you see this sort of Y intersection. So this is sort of an aerial view. You all are top leftmost corner, and you are sort of coming south into the wooded area, and you can see that the road sort of splits off to the right and left. These are very narrow paths. It gives you an idea of what you're seeing, which is just obviously this is an area that Daxam spent a good amount of time in, and there's just lots of tramped down flooring that has started growing back after, 5 months of nothing happening. You can tell this is an area that Daxam spent a lot of time in.
Williana said that he only became distant after, for a month. So it would reason that whichever path that he took, whatever he found, would be less traveled than the one he used for years. Is one of these anything like that, Hillian? And then Rialu will kind of try to look as well if they need to roll something.
Oh, it seems that the area we're in was well used by Daxam, so maybe his cache was around here somewhere.
So Rialu's going to wander towards the center, and you said that it kind of splits into two roads.
Yes.
And
so right around this top leftmost corner if you look, there is a very bright green sort of bush, and that is where y'all are coming in, and the road, it's a little wider straight ahead heading south for y'all, and there are a couple of trees there, but it's actually kind of a clearing area where it looks like lots of stuff has been cut down and is now being grown over with moss and other stuff. Off to your left is a small area around the other tree that leads towards a boulder that has been trampled down, but it's just that direction. And then it sort of Y's around this tree.
Perfect. So Rialu wants to do a perception, or I want to do a perception, to see which one looks less traveled, which one looks a lot less traveled, because the one that Daxam used for years would take a lot longer to grow back than the one that he used for a month.
I will say, without having to make a roll, that this area is obviously one that this was all done at the same time. Mm-hmm. And the path to this was the new direction that Daxam seems to have been going based on what Hillian determined.
Oh, okay.
So this is definitely the area that Daxam was spending their time. You don't need to roll to find that out, because you can tell that this whole trampled down area is very different from the path that you saw that had been worn down for over a year or two.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize we had straight off the path. I thought the path had led us to... Okay, I got you.
This was the thing that Hillian found that was off to the right.
Cool. All right. Well, if this is where Daxam was spending his time, it It might be around here. What does the Numenera cache look like? Of course, I've interacted with them, but I've never found a cache in the woods.
I mean, a cache could look like anything because Numenera could be anything. So I guess look for anything that's not just more nature. If you see anything that's, that doesn't look like it belongs, that could be it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you hear humming, and sometimes your skin vibrates, and sometimes you see colors. It really just depends. I mean, one time I heard this piercing sound, and then it smelled like sulfur for weeks.
Awesome. So yeah, you can do some perception checks. If you have any abilities that would help you sense Numenera, you can try those out. You can just randomly explore. What are you going to do?
I have sense magic. Basically lets me sense if there's an active Numenera nearby.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not active, that isn't super helpful, but I do want to try to use that.
Okay. So that takes you about a minute to get a feel for whether that's happening. So, we can have you start that process. Do Hillian and Rialu want to do anything? What does it look like while you're doing that anyway?
So similar to the scan ability, someone looking at Teyuna might see a little bit of electricity just sort of like pop off of her. And then she's just sort of like studiously examining the area around her. And to her, she can see like sparks of electricity sort of like exploring the area, kind of like giving her feedback. But anyone else just looking at her would just see her like staring out at the world around her.
Okay.
Rialu is going to explore back near some of those boulders, like off to the right side, next to that what looks like a really tall tree, because Rialu does come from a merchant family, and so while they don't do a lot of exploring outside of the city, their parents do make them go on these trips from time to time, and they know that that's like a pretty decent hiding space.
All right. Looks like I was able to figure out how to get you all on the map, so you can move your tokens around by just dragging and dropping them. We're using Fantasy Grounds, so this is just for some visuals and to help me out when I'm describing things. And what is Hillian gonna do?
Hillian turns his head to Jacques, who's on his shoulders.
Okay, little Jacques, up into the trees. Go find us that magic.
And Hillian sends Jacques kind of away, and they're also gonna go off of the path area into kind of the grassy area by the trees and just start, searching around, searching the grounds and that sort of stuff, and keeping an ear out for Jacques to see if Jacques has found anything.
Okay. So
can I roll a perception?
I would love for you to roll a perception, and then Rialu, I would also love to roll a perception. Is there anything specific you're looking for? Hillian doing anything Numenera based that you would get some sort of that you're looking?
Hillian only understands Numenera. They can't track or find it.
Okay.
So they're just doing normal foraging based things that they're used to doing.
So 6-month-old tracks or whatever. So you're looking for a particular track set that would be more tramped down than anything else.
Or like something that was dug up or something that's just out of place from nature.
Okay, so that's a challenge difficulty TD5.
Okay.
If you'll start thinking about what you're going to use to lower that, I'll go to Aaron and see what Rialu's doing so I can give them the task difficulty they need and we can move on.
Sure.
So what is Rialu looking for specifically?
So Rialu is going around towards those boulders in that tree, and they're kind of looking for I want to say like not necessarily a bag, but they're looking for somewhere someone could have stashed something. So, a crevice to shove something in, or maybe if this was like a cache from before, they're looking for something like some sort of access to underground, maybe a cave or like a hole, not a cave.
Okay.
So that sort of thing.
Yeah. So this is this person's personal territory. They've had several years of being a kid, finding nooks and crannies. It's been over 5 months, so even the stuff that they would have done to make things visible for themselves is going to be kind of overgrown. So this is going to be a TD6. And so I'll let you think about what you want to do to find the crevasse, and we'll go back to Hillian's role. And what are you doing, Hillian?
I think Hillian would expend some effort and do that search. So that's the only way that they're going to attempt to lower the difficulty.
Okay, you don't have anything else to drop it, so that's
Nothing. Nada.
okay.
Unless
so,
you think that the egg finder will help.
No, I do not believe the egg finder will help. So drop it to TD4. Let's see what you roll.
Ooh, not good. Not good. So I rolled a 4.
Yeah, so it's been 5 months. I mean, finding anything would have been pretty miraculous, really. And so, as far as you're concerned, this is just an overgrown area that no more information.
Yeah.
All right, Rialu.
So that's all I have. I looked through everything, unless my book of stories has a story about a guy that hid something, and you're going to let me use that as an asset, in which case I doubt it.
No, that does not sound like something I would do.
Yeah, no, me neither. So I'm just going to spend the point of effort from my
Okay.
pool. Give me something good. Nat 20.
What?
Hey.
Wow. Okay, so we'll get back to what you find in a second. I'd like to go to Jess, and I would like, now that you've had your minute while they've been searching, to attune yourself. Can you just tell me again what the skill does for you?
I can sense whether Numenera is active in situations where its presence is not obvious. I have to study an object or location closely for a minute to get a feel for whether the touch of the ancients is at work. I've just been studying like this area to see if I can figure out if there's any Numenera nearby.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick and move your character. Feel something really low level right around. So you're gonna walk down probably 60 feet into this trampled down area, and then there is this one tree that you feel a low level of Numenera from. Like, it almost feels like it's so low level, it feels like it's something that you would have in your battery pack. Like, almost like if you were walking through and your little battery bag had dropped a battery out, that would be what you were sensing. Like, it's super low level, and it has something to do with this tree. Rialu, you find 2 different things. First, as you start walking towards that tree, you find yourself meeting up with Teyuna. And about 5 feet away from Teyuna, you see what looks like an outline in this tree that is very subtle. Like, it is like a bark shimmer, as if there were some sort of speckling on it. And it's like nothing you've seen before. Like, it looks like bark, but then you look at it kind of through your side eye, and it looks like a sparkling bark, but not like the fossils, just like there are like little points of light. And it's roughly 8 feet up the trunk and probably, wide enough for a person to go through. And
Got some electric bark.
that's what you see. And at the very base of this, you find 2 ravage bear claws.
Like just the claws?
Just the claws of a ravage bear.
Okay. Strange. Teyuna, I don't know, how do I describe it? If you look right up there, this is gonna sound ridiculous, but the bark, there's an outlining, and it doesn't look quite right. I know that the fossils are in it, but it's a little bit more shiny. I'd say perhaps even it's out of place. Do you see it?
Well, this area definitely has some sort of something going on, because while I was trying to determine while I was trying to search for the presence of any Numenera, I was drawn to this spot. So yeah, I believe you that there's something strange going on. And Teyuna will look at the same spot to see if she sees it. Since Rialu is pointing it out, can she see it?
So as soon as you 2 find this area, you feel eyes on you. Like, you feel like you are being watched. Both of you are, how you get that prickling sensation down your back sometimes where you just randomly are like, someone's watching you, but there's nothing that you see. And yeah, Teyuna, you are going to see me use my banked GM intrusion. And so you step up next to Rialu and you see where they're pointing, and Rialu is being Rialu about Numenera. Like, they're like, do you see this? I'm seeing this. It's here. But like, they're holding their hand like back at their face. Like, they're not really putting it anywhere near the Numenera.
So it's right there. I'm not, you know, my luck with Numenera. I'm not, it's right in this area over here. It's like a shimmering, but it's like electrical. It's right, yeah.
You're motioning to the entire tree. Can you give me something more specific?
Listen, you know my luck with electricity. It's right, like around like 8 feet up. Listen, I'll just show you.
As you're saying this, Teyuna is gesturing, saying, you're pointing at the whole tree. And their hand hits the tree because I'm using a GM intrusion, and they get sucked into the tree. They are no longer in front of you because being careless, because Teyuna is always annoyed at you, and you were, you know, just being annoying about the damn Numenera. It's why you're here to explore. Why are you doing this? Why?
Also, aren't we all really glad I didn't touch it though? So I was right.
Well, you might be. I don't know if Teyuna is.
On Rialu's tombstone, I was right.
I was right. Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This has been a very interesting episode of Qmenera as we try out some new tools and do some new learning. I hope it's been enjoyable for everyone. And I'm Kelric, your baby GM. You can find me on Twitter at EQ Points or at Cormelon.
I'm Jess. You can find me on Twitter at WrightJessR.
I'm Aaron. You can find me at Twitter at Space Persona.
And I'm Kenny. You can find me on Twitter at Punderdrone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.